Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. My name is Tom Tietz. I'm with the California-Nevada Cement Association, also here representing the Southwest Concrete Pavement Association. Both of our associations are strongly supportive of the efforts for the state to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, as well as with Caltrans. And we understand there's economic ways in which Caltrans can look at reducing GHGs in vital ways. One of which is actually looking at a resource that we see every day, the most visible public asset being our roads. There's research that shows that if we look at our roads and how to rehabilitate them effectively, that we can be improving the fuel efficiency of cars and trucks by looking at pavement-vehicle interaction. It's a concept that we would urge to be considered. Additionally, there's life cycle components to this whole approach that are worth thinking about. Looking at pavements that will last and endure decades of use with little maintenance is an important part of this as well. There's a proven and available technologies that can do this today. These aren't imaginary ideas, but we can point to highways that have been used in California for over 60 years that illustrate some of these technologies. So I'd be happy to provide you and your staff with more information about these opportunities to reduce greenhouse gases with our public roads. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, best behavior, everybody. This is my mayor, Mayor Pam O'Connor, City of Santa Monica.
Yeah, I took the job over. Okay. Pam O'Connor, Mayor of Santa Monica and past president of the Southern California Association of Governments. And thank you for letting us have some input today. SCAG is the nation's largest metropolitan planning organization, and its jurisdiction represents nearly half of the state's population. We support the governor's $850 million cap-and-trade proposal, including high-speed rail, freight, and commuter rail. But we ask for an increase for sustainability from the proposed $100 million to $500 million. In 2012, as SCAG's president, I oversaw the development of our regional transportation plan with its first sustainable community strategy. Throughout the plan development, we saw so many great sustainable projects pent up, ready to go, but waiting for funding. In the first 6 years of the plan alone, the SCAG region has $37.6 billion in projects, and these projects have undergone extensive public outreach and enjoy wide business and environmental community support. By increasing funds available for the Sustainable Communities Implementation Program and investing them in the most cost-effective greenhouse gas reduction strategies in the plan, we estimate these funds could account for an accelerated 3 to 5% reduction of greenhouse gas emissions for the state's most impacted air quality region. Additionally, the increased investment statewide would lead to the creation of an estimated 6,000 jobs and an additional $400 million of economic activity. And this request would fully repay the state's current year cap-and-trade loan to the general fund. We further ask that regional and local institutions responsible for sustainable communities be given the flexibility to utilize these scarce resources in the most efficient manner possible. This recognizes that MPOs have the statutory responsibility to achieve the Air Resources Board's approved GHG emission reduction targets, that implementing agencies such as the County Transportation Commissions have the requisite expertise and experience to develop projects that will help provide the latest greenhouse. And my mayor is going to let me just quickly conclude that regional allocation of funds for already vetted SCS projects and implementing SB 375 in the most efficient, effective manner ensures collaboration by local governments. So thank you, subcommittee.
All right, you took advantage of me. Chair Skinner has, I think, a question or comment.
Chair, if you mind my indulgence, I wanted to give a shout out to both you and Mayor O'Connor that the city you represent, Santa Monica, has been a leader nationally in this whole issue of greenhouse gas reduction and has been a participant in international programs like Cities for Climate Protection since the early 90s and has, like me, gone through the grueling process of trying to count the carbon reductions of all your various activities, including your electric blue bus system and various other great things, and one of the first, I think the first city in California to start any kind of car sharing program. So just wanted to give you both that shout out.
Thank you. Well, yeah, we couldn't do it without having cities like City of Berkeley to emulate.
Thank you. Yes, yes. Thank you.
Good morning. Erica Morehouse with Environmental Defense Fund. And we're generally supportive of a strong portfolio of greenhouse gas reducing investments that will create multiple benefits for our environment, economy, and health. And maximizing cost-effective emissions reductions is one metric that's been proposed to evaluate potential investments. And we do think this is an important consideration, but we believe the legislature should consider a broader suite of investment or benefits. Otherwise, we risk not maximizing the transformational potential of these investments, and also the ability to lock in reductions for decades to come. So EDF is supporting a number of coalitions which are proposing ways to evaluate potential benefits up front before the investments go out and invest proceeds wisely to maximize multiple benefits. And these coalitions include the Transportation Coalition for Livable Communities that you already heard from, the Local Government Coalition, and Assemblymember Gordon's bill, and also the Green Bank Coalition that you'll hear from in just a few minutes. And thank you very much.
Good morning. Bill McGavin with Coalition for Clean Air. And as the sponsors of SB 535, we appreciate the attention that the committee members are paying to making sure that the benefits from the cap and trade funds really make it to the most disadvantaged communities, the people that are the most affected by climate change and have the fewest resources with which to respond. The administration's proposal does fund 4 of the top 5 priorities of our SB 535 coalition, including affordable housing near transit, urban forestry, low-income weatherization, and also solar assistance for low-income families. The one missing element is transit operating assistance, and we echo the comments of Mr. Shaw. People need help getting to and from work, and the increase in that ridership will, of course, also reduce greenhouse gas emissions. So we need more funding for transit operations. And we also do agree with the administration that a mix of near-term and longer-term investments is what makes sense in this portfolio. And finally, as members of the Charge Ahead California campaign, which seeks the electrification of more than 1 million vehicles, light, medium, and heavy duty, we support at least $200 million for low-carbon transportation. Cleaning up the freight sector is particularly important, and those emissions disproportionately impact low-income communities of color. And we agree with Mr. Gordon's comments that we need to make sure that the benefits of the light-duty vehicle programs extend to all of our communities, particularly disadvantaged communities. And Chair Nichols laid out a number of ideas that could make that happen. We're working with the Air Board on those. Thank you.
One quick comment.
Yes.
Bill, it would be helpful, and maybe you can find some entity to do this, to have some look at if we were to use a certain portion of cap and trade funds, not necessarily in this year, but in a future year, to basically provide a transit pass to people with a certain income, what type of emissions reduction might be calculated on something like that. So it might be worth it to have some people do some metrics on that.
Thanks. Let's see if we can do that.
Mr. Chair, Justin Malone, behalf of 2 groups and 2 categories, and I'll be less than 2 minutes. Firstly, on waste diversion, for the California Compost Coalition, we're very much in support of this proposal. A lot of discussion about metrics. It has metrics. We have metrics in place. Metrics are identified. This one's ready to go. Secondly, I must concur with Ms. Skinner. On behalf of the U.S. Green Building Council, we're very much in support of the energy efficiency upgrades, not only for state building, for all buildings. This is the low-hanging fruit, and $20 million is woefully inadequate. We're going to get the best bang for the buck out of those buildings, and we really urge a greater allocation to that. Thank you.
Thank you. This is Bill Higgins with the California Association of Councils of Governments. We represent the RTPAs, the COGS, and all 18 of the state's MPOs that are responsible for implementing SB 375. I'm going to focus on one issue and combine 2 of your thoughts. Number 1 was Assemblymember Gordon's thought that we should work stronger through the regions on the sustainable community pot. We absolutely concur. The other issue, and why that's a strong point of focus, is everybody on the panel is concerned about how we measure. And the regions have developed the transportation models and the sophisticated land use models to give you the best measurement of how we're going to reduce greenhouse gas reductions. We also need a strong state role in this partnership. The state needs to put strong guidelines on this type of partnership, so we are assured that the state gets the best of the best projects out of here. We're not asking for a regional handout, we're asking for a partnership. Certainly there's a role for an entity like the Strategic Growth Council to act like a Federal Reserve to kind of control and how we trade and count these matters. That's a full-time job in itself. But since SB 375 gave the regions the duty to figure out how to achieve the target, we should match the resources accordingly, and the Sustainable Communities pot is the right pot to do that with. Thanks.
Kiana Bess on behalf of the California State Association of Counties want to align my comments with CTA, EDF, and most recently Bill's comments with CalCog. CSAC is also a part of the Transportation Coalition for Livable Communities. I too will focus on one of our more specific requests of the legislature, and that is to expand the eligible uses as proposed in the governor's SCIP program for implementation of SCSs. In order to maximize regional and local implementation, we need to expand program eligibility to reflect the full suite of transportation infrastructure investments contemplated in the statewide SCSs. Specifically, local streets and roads are not included in proposed trailer bill language, but a well-maintained local street and road system is critical for the support of increased and more robust transit operations as well as active transportation opportunities. Further, smoother roads also provide maximum vehicle operational efficiency, which provides a GHG reduction benefit. So in sum, we believe it's critical to have a full system approach when considering the SCS implementation to maximize competition, synergistic effects, and cost-effective bang for the buck GHG emissions reduction per dollar invested. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Matt Robinson with Shawgitter Antwi today on behalf of the Solano Transportation Authority. I just want to thank the administration for proposing to distribute these cap and trade funds out, specifically in the areas of sustainable communities as well as rail modernization. I think folks up here before me, the Transit Association, Mr. Higgins, Kiana, have covered the approach that we would like to see the legislature take with regards to sustainable communities in terms of a regional approach, more money in the program, expanded eligible uses. Instead, I'll focus on the rail modernization component. The Transportation Authority would like to see those funds go out by formula similar to what was done with Prop 1A. If you recall, there was $950 million there that was distributed to the 13 rail operators throughout the state. That made it easier for them to plan on their share and also build their capital programs and their operations programs around that. Finally, we'd like to see that pot be increased significantly in order to make the kinds of investments that you all spoke about earlier with regards to ensuring that the connectivity is there for high-speed rail when it arrives here soon. So thank you for that, and I appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Good morning. Nick Lapis with Californians Against Waste. We're strongly supporting the waste sector allocation in the cap and trade plan. I think CalRecycle is somewhat unique in that they've really done their homework ahead of time in working with ARB to identify both the metrics for counting greenhouse gas reductions and for setting ambitious goals. And so I think in a sense, the waste sector might be the first one that's really ready to go out the gate with projects and with proposals and metrics and meeting all the different objectives out there. The waste sector is not actually just one set of projects. It's a mix of the organics, which is targeting the food waste and the green waste and the other material that we haven't had too much success diverting from landfills, and the traditional recyclables, where the focus is on keeping manufacturing in California and supporting California manufacturers who use recycled content. That's the right focus. I think this is a down payment, and we could definitely use more money for both of those. But thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Kathy Lynch, representing the Association of Compost Producers. It's a statewide organization dedicated to market development for the compost industry and educational outreach. I'd like to associate myself with Mr. Lapis's comments from the Californians Against Waste to support the waste sector allocation. Yesterday, CalRecycle at its monthly meeting did approve the metrics for this proposal. They are shovel ready to go, and there are a lot of projects pented up ready to go. Assemblyman Chesborough has had great leadership in this area with his organics legislation that will dovetail nicely, and it fits in with the 75% plan that this legislature has approved a couple of years ago. So this is a very important component, and I suspect we will oversubscribe in this program and be looking for additional resources in the future. And I really want to compliment Cal Recycle and Carol Mortensen's leadership on this one. They're very much ready to go. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Chair, Julian DeVos with the Urban Counties Caucus. We're also part of the Local Government Coalition. While we're very supportive of the governor's proposal to provide $100 million to sustainable communities, we believe that more funding could be in that pot for local governments. We have projects, as CSAC indicated, that are ready to go, and that could provide benefit on a more faster time frame than other projects. On accountability and metrics, I just wanted to say that I think you know counties are very used to being partners with the state. We operate a lot of programs for the state, so I think we're well versed in how that works and providing that accountability back to our constituents. And so we would just ask for either a separate pot for local governments or more money in the SCS pot. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Christopher Trinnell here on behalf of Audubon, California. There's been some really good discussion today, a lot of common themes that have run through people's testimony, members of the committee, administrative officials, others. Accountability, metrics, oversight, both on the legislative side and the administrative side, and this kind of the thing that kind of bugs all of us, I think, and that there is a limited amount of funds and that there's just not enough to go around and fully satisfy the need. One way that the legislature can work with the administration and all of us stakeholders to make sure that funds are, that these limited funds are used and spread in the best way for the maximum efficiency and effectiveness, and both achieving AB 32 objectives, but also just good public policy objectives of good oversight, accountability, et cetera, is to use the power to create new programs, essentially, to oversee these funds, and to use legislative prerogative to do that. Specifically, as it relates to Audubon's interests in the natural resources sector, we urge you to look at AB 2348 by Assemblymember Stone. In short, creates a single program to receive and distribute cap-and-trade revenues intended for natural resource projects, creates accountability and oversight for these investments, and ensures that state funds are directed to the best, most defensible, and most effective projects available in the natural resource sector. So thank you, and we look forward to working with you on that.
Thank you. Good morning. Roman Partida with the Green Lining Institute. On behalf of the Charge Ahead California campaign and SB 535 to support low-carbon transportation funding. We also ask for funding for public transportation, for rail modernization, as well as buses to support transit passengers. And we also ask the subcommittee to ensure that 535 funds are invested wisely to maximize benefits to disadvantaged communities and metrics used to evaluate the impact. Thank you.
Good morning, Anna Doty with the Environmental Defense Fund, and I'm here today on behalf of a larger coalition of nonprofits, investors, and clean energy businesses seeking to promote the creation of a clean energy financing institution, sometimes known as a green bank. We believe a state-financed institution could leverage significant private investments in GHG reducing projects, which will allow more Californians to access clean energy, reduce energy costs, and rapidly transition to a low-carbon economy. Green banks have already been created in 3 states, and we believe the time is right for California to follow suit as we move towards our 2020 GHG target and beyond. So we urge you to consider including in this year's budget a small amount of auction revenue to seed funding and begin setting up this type of financing institution, in addition to allocating additional funds in the future. Thank you.
Good morning. Chris Rosa, representing the Silicon Valley Leadership Group. The Leadership Group is a member of the Green Bank Coalition and believes that a well-structured green bank could move California significantly towards its GHG, energy, and economic goals by using limited state funds to encourage investors and private lenders to start expanding opportunities for low-carbon technologies. The companies in Silicon Valley are innovating and starting to sell low-carbon technologies necessary to meet the state's goals. However, limited financing opportunities are preventing the large-scale deployment and adoption of these technologies. A green bank could use a small amount of public funds to leverage significant private investment for clean energy projects, and for these reasons we ask you to please include in this year's budget some seed funding to set up this type of financing institution and allocating additional funds in future years.
Thank you. All right. Good morning, Steve Wallach on behalf of the Alameda County Transportation Commission. The Alameda CTC is a part of the Transportation Coalition and echoes a lot of the comments that have already been made, and particularly the funding for the Sustainable Communities pot, and also providing a stronger role for the regions and county level agencies in allocating and programming those funds, and urge your support.
Hey, Bonnie Holmes-Jem with the American Lung Association in California, Mr. Chair and members. Just wanted to mention our support for several of the categories in the proposed investment plan, and particularly mention our strong support for low-carbon transportation, especially with a focus on a full range of zero-emission transportation opportunities and sustainable freight, and the need for transportation opportunities for all. And I know Mary Nichols mentioned that ARB is really focused on that. We'll get some new information on that next week. We're very concerned about the funding for sustainable community grant programs. I think there is a need for more funding in that category. This is particularly important because of the broad range of health and air quality benefits that we can achieve from sustainable communities. We're releasing new data today showing over $260 million in health benefits, and this is just in 3 counties in the San Joaquin Valley, in San Joaquin, Fresno, and Kern County, with a focus on more sustainable planning and revitalized downtowns, more vibrant, healthy communities. We're also very focused on energy efficiency, renewable energy programs, and I think all of these expenditures definitely need to be focused on both pre and post 2020. And again, our focus is looking at the co-benefits, the health, air quality, and community benefits that we can achieve, and not just the cost-benefit metrics. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Megan Kirkby with California Housing Partnership, California's experts on affordable housing finance and sustainable housing policy. I'm here as a member of the Sustainable Communities for All Coalition. We commend the administration's proposed creation of the Sustainable Communities Implementation Plan. We believe these ambitious goals do warrant additional funding. We would support increasing the loan repayment by $200 million and directing it to this program. We also believe the Strategic Growth Council is well poised to administer this program at the state level. And further, we would recommend just clarifying the administration's intent that this is a development-centered program, and that we focus the program on creating affordable transit-oriented development that will reduce displacement and meet California's most critical housing needs. We also believe in ensuring geographic equity goals are considered in this program is important. And with regard to energy efficiency, we are working with CSD to ensure that the energy efficiency program run through the weatherization program will effectively and efficiently serve low-income multifamily housing as well as single-family housing. We're working on specific language, and we look forward to working with the committee moving forward.
Thank you.
Good morning. Joshua Stark for Transform, an organization dedicated to sustainable and equitable land use and transportation policies. Thank you for this time today. Transform is happy to see the governor's proposed creation of a Sustainable Communities Implementation Plan, and we're happy to see it administered through the Strategic Growth Council and administered at the state level. And we look forward to working with the legislature and the administration to ensure that these revenues are used in ways that reduce greenhouse gas and other criteria air pollutants by providing all Californians real transportation choices. We agree with our coalition partners in the Sustainable Communities for All Coalition on increasing the loan repayment program and directing it by $200 million and directing it to $200 million and directing it to the proposed Sustainable Communities Implementation Program, and to expand and strengthen the proposed program to include, among other things, transit passes and funds for operations associated with new ridership, as well as projects and programs for active transportation. Additionally, Transform supports broadening the rail modernization proposal portion of the cap-and-trade program to transit modernization, to include the possibility for bus rapid transit and the possibility for transit passes there as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. Jeannie Ward-Waller. I'm with the Safe Routes to School National Partnership, also a member of the Sustainable Communities for All Coalition, and I join my colleagues in supporting the proposal for the Sustainable Communities Implementation Program administered by the Strategic Growth Council at the state level. And in particular, we appreciate the funding for projects and education programs eligible for the Active Transportation Program, which the Budget Committee has devoted great attention to last year. Walking and bicycling projects and programs reduce vehicle miles traveled and achieve significant co-benefits in health, safety, and quality of life for California communities. We believe the requirements and metrics for achieving co-benefits should be strengthened in the Sustainable Communities Program. We would also like to see the trailer language strengthened in another key area to ensure that transportation planning funded by this program includes coordination with schools and school districts, which are largely exempt from land use and transportation planning processes and contribute to a large degree to sprawl development. Sustainable Communities program investments should support safe routes to schools, in addition to jobs and housing, as ladders to economic opportunity for California's youth. These investments can also leverage student transit passes and greenhouse gas reductions from students walking and bicycling and taking transit to school. In addition, we ask that additional repayment dollars from the general fund loan be invested directly into the active transportation program. The ATP was established last year through significant work by the budget committees and is ready as of this week to begin investing competitive VMT reducing projects and programs. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. Chuck Mills with California Relief, a member of the Natural and Working Lands Coalition and the Sustainable Communities for All Coalition. I join my colleagues up here in support of a budget blueprint from the administration that includes the first proposed expenditure plan for cap and trade. As a member of the SC4A Coalition, we are supportive of the proposal to create a new program at SGC that will utilize cap and trade funds to support SCS projects that will advance the goals of 375, AB 32, and SB 35. However, we believe the proposed trailer bill language creating the program could be strengthened to ensure that project investments funded under this program are managed and administered directly to the SGC, and that project co-benefits are appropriately weighted, especially in relation to meeting the goals of AB 32. In addition, we're supportive of the $18 million within the proposed CAL FIRE allocation that would be used to support the Department's urban and community forestry program, and thank Member Campos for her insightful and thoughtful comments to that regard. CAL FIRE's urban and community forestry program specifically focuses on projects that can help meet the AB 32 objectives and is well positioned to set GHG reduction targets from the outset, while also implementing greenhouse gas accounting metrics through myriad tools, including iTrees and existing carbon calculators. As also mentioned in the BCP, the majority of funds will meet and exceed the goals of SB 535. And finally, strongly recommend or strongly support the staff recommendation directing CARB to develop metrics for departments to use to evaluate the potential GHG emission benefits of all proposed projects. Thank you.